19 and 20. He released the two seas meeting side by side. Between them is a barrier, so neither of them transgresses. Maraj al-Bahraini. Maraj means mix. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes the two seas to meet. Could be a sea, an ocean, sea and an ocean, a sea and a sea and a river, a lake and a river, a lake and a sea. Allah causes them to meet at some point, but still Allah keeps them separate. And we know the issue of the salinity, the salt level, or between the two seas, that there's always a barrier. It's been found, it's been established scientifically, there is a barrier. Where the salinity, two levels of salinity, there's a sharp line between them. Okay? So this is one of the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Probably at that time, the early times, it wasn't so apparent as it is now, but that's known. Like, for example, I'll just say in Jordan, if you go to the Dead Sea, Dead Sea is extremely salty, that no fish lives there. This is why I call it Dead Sea. There's no living creature in that sea. And if the water gets into your eye, or if you have any cuts and you get into the water, you will cry out of pain. And actually you can float. People don't swim there, by the way, they float. They just lie on their back and they're floating. Have you ever seen people reading newspaper there? They just lie on their back and they're just reading. You don't need to swim, you float there. But there are water springs that actually feed into the sea, and you can see it there. You can see, subhanAllah, the line of because the water, when it's very salty, it's oily, thick, and you can see the line. Clearly see the line. You can swim in the sweet water, it's hot springs. You can swim in that portion, it's within the sea. It just meets the sea. In that portion, as long as you are inside that line, that circle, water is very sweet. And you just swim 20 centimeters ahead and you cross that line and it's salty, very thick. SubhanAllah. So that's a sign of the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's something that's very useful in da'wah, has been for people who have this scientific orientation. Now this is mentioned in the Quran so clearly. And when you present them with the theory that talks about this, such a profound thing. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, but imagine if water was to mix in the whole world and it would be all at the same level of salinity. You know, there are sweet water where certain brands of fish grow. It's different than the fish or lives. And in the sea, you get different type of fish. Each one of them is fulfilling a certain kind of job or purpose. And we know that the sea deals with a lot of the smells, a lot of the nasty stuff that goes around in the world, by the way. It gets treated by the salinity of the water in the sea. A lot of the stuff. So all of this is from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You need always refer all of these things back to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's the general frame. By the way, you did an average job with your duty. An average one, yeah. It's just the brother's answer that saved you in the last moment. For tomorrow, inshallah. Now, that's more or less the general frame for that surah. That's the depth of the meaning. The rest of it becomes all some kind of elaboration on the principles that we mentioned. What I would like you to do is, if you have the time, and inshallah you have the time, you can make it, is to find out, link the verses that are to come to mercy, to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Find out a certain connection, a strange connection. It could sometimes, because the more you think about it, subhanAllah, the more it will open in your mind. Start to link things. You could develop a habit of linking everything around you, everything you come in contact with, to the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And such a profound exercise. Such profound, because it could always make you mindful of Allah. If you do this exercise often, it becomes something common, that you always trace things back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then everything in this world makes sense, because you can see where it's coming from and where it's getting to. Jazakumullah khair for your patience. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us understand the meanings of His words and help us benefit from them. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.